Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Hauser. This is a bonus episode. And first things first, let's hopefully check that this mic setup is working for all of you. I decided to try to give you an outdoor backdrop because what a beautiful day it is. And why not celebrate what was a gorgeous day in the Pacific Northwest? So I see there's people on. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay, sounds great. That's good to hear. All right. So today was the first day that media was allowed to attend OTAs and watch the Seahawks practice. Obviously, well, not obviously, we were allowed to watch rookie minicamp. So I'd seen the rookies when they were there, but had not seen the rookies along with the veterans, had not seen the new veterans like Sam Darnold, like the return of Drew Lock, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Cooper Kupp and all the others. Also had not been able to see the rookies intermingled with the veterans. And this was our first chance to kind of see how that all looked together. And there's a fair amount to kind of cover. I'm not going to get into every detail because I'll cover some of that tomorrow morning as well. I also had a chance to speak with Byron Murphy, the second-year defensive tackle, first-round pick of the Seahawks last year. After practice, it was a good chance to catch up with Byron, and that interview is actually already available. If you are a club level or higher member on YouTube, you can watch it right now. For everybody else, I will air that interview during Hawk Blogger Mornings tomorrow, and it will be available soon after for everyone else to watch just whenever they want to. We also got the chance to speak to Adden Dirty, Devin Witherspoon after practice. I missed the Jaron Reed press conference because I was speaking to Byron Murphy, but all good stuff, and we'll get into all that over the coming days. Couple things to note before I get into my impressions. I think it's really, really important to qualify everything that I'm going to say with this is OTAs. They're installs. These are super early on in the installation process, in the off-season process. This is not a situation where it's a finely, tuned machine at this point. They're still trying players at positions that they might not actually play later. There's no pads on, so that's a big difference. I would expect going into this that the defense would be well ahead of the offense, given that the offense has many new players, an entirely new coaching staff, and is younger in general overall, at least at certain positions. So all those things said, I told you that the player that I was going to watch first and most was the Seahawks' new quarterback, Sam Darnold. And I got to say, it wasn't great. That's just the honest truth. It was not a great practice for Sam Darnold. He threw at least 3 interceptions. There may have been more. He threw probably more picks that I witnessed during this OTA practice than I think Geno Smith threw during the first couple of weeks of training camp last year. And in general, even before the interceptions started, Sam Darnold had very happy feet. He did not look comfortable in the pocket and kind of fed into a lot of what people have said about him and his performances under pressure. He kind of looked like that quarterback today. Now, again, first practice early on, give the guy a chance to settle in, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great for Sam Darnold. At least for me, it was like, oh, that's not what I was hoping to see. And it was in contrast to Drew Lock, who was, if you want to make a comparison, Drew Lock made Sam Howell look like a grade schooler. Drew Lock was locked in for this practice, made the prettiest throws of the day, was very calm and poised in the pocket. The difference between his feet and Sam Darnold's feet were noticeable even for, just an average Joe like me. Sam Darnold was very active with his feet, looked like he was just constantly looking around for where to go with the ball. And Drew Lock was very steady, set with his feet. he would reset his feet, but as he went through his progressions, it was much more controlled. So Drew Lock had a great practice. So the backup quarterback position looks like it's in good hands. The starting quarterback position, I think, like I said, was not a great day in that regard. Jalen Milroe, who I think everybody is really curious about, and like, oh, well, maybe if Sam Darnold struggles, maybe this will be opening the door for Jalen Milroe. Well, I don't think that's the case. Jalen Milroe did fine. He did nothing terrible. He did nothing fantastic in this practice. He looked like a rookie third-round pick that is going to need time to acclimate to this offense and acclimate to the NFL. He made a couple of nice throws, which was good to see. He made a couple of bad throws, which is not unheard of in this situation. And, he generally was staying in the pocket. This wasn't a situation where you're going to see a lot of scrambles. There was one play in a red zone drill where he was rolling out, trying to find, I can't remember who it was in the end zone. That player was covered, and so he was going to try to sprint for the end zone. Guess who caught him again? Nicky Manwari, the only player in college football to ever catch Jalen Milroe, caught him again toward the end of practice, which was cool to see. And I think somebody yelled out on the team, seen that before. So that was kind of a cool little moment. I think I don't want to overemphasize the Sam Darnold piece, but that's what you're going to hear about. That's what you're going to hear about from other folks in the media that attended. And the reality is what that means is that you're going to have to hope that this was just early installs, that he will calm down. They will get to know what he's comfortable with and what he's not. You also have to hope that he was going against some of the number ones on defense potentially, and maybe that contributed to some of the struggles, and this is going to be a very good defense. All those things are what you hope for. But it wasn't like it was an absolute disaster. It wasn't like a Sam Howell practice like that we saw last year. It just was uncomfortable, and it was forced, and there's a lot of taking advantage of, dump offs. And I think that's okay, maybe even good. But he was not finding his first, second, third read at times and looked a little frenetic as he went through his reads, which is not what I really want to see in, my veteran starting quarterback. So, also just my first time watching him in practice, I might get used to his style and that might change things as well. Other things, I'm going to be looking down at my notes, so forgive me as I do that. Other things that stood out to me in this practice, I don't know where the line is, and maybe I'll get us talking to a slap on the wrist from Seahawks PR for this. I don't think we're really supposed to necessarily talk about which players played at which positions, but we're allowed to take pictures, and there's going to be all sorts of people that talk about who is playing at which role on the offensive line, and that was something I was really curious about. We saw Christian Haynes and Anthony Bradford rotating at right guard. It looked like maybe Christian Haynes was first string, but I don't think that really matters at this point in time. I think they were rotating throughout, and Satawa Lamea was on the left side. So we've been wondering who is going to be moving over. It can't be everybody on the right side. So I think Satawa Lamea is looking like the backup at left guard. If that's the case, that really does mean that it's between Christian Haynes and Anthony Bradford, at least for now, at the right guard spot. And that's interesting considering that the team ended last season with Satawa Lamea as their starter at right guard over Christian Haynes. And I think he would have started potentially over Anthony Bradford if he was available. I will say this, as someone who has been initially very excited that the Seahawks drafted Anthony Bradford, then very disappointed with what I've seen from Anthony Bradford in his first two seasons. He looks like he is in better shape than he has been. He looks a little bit trimmer. And one of the most memorable plays of this practice to me was watching a rep he had against nose tackle Brandon Peely, who is no small man. And It was a pass play. I don't even remember what happened on the play outside of this, but Peely, I just pointed out Peely to Mike Salk. I was like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this guy as a nose tackle. And he was rushing, and initially Bradford kind of stabbed him with his hands and slowed him down. And then he just ragdolled him to the side, like pushed him over in a way that was like, whoa. Like Salk was even like, whoa. It was an impressive rep from Anthony Bradford. And it wasn't the only rep he had that was impressive today. Going through position drills where they had this drill where 4 different offensive linemen were carrying a blocking pad, and one lineman would stand there and basically, hit the pad with his hands, and then hit the other pad and hit the third and hit the fourth pad from different linemen coming at him. And, Christian Haynes went first and he did fine. Like there's nothing amazing or bad. He just did the drill. And then Anthony Bradford did it. And his last stab, with his arms just like knocked the lineman back and had the coaches hooting and hollering about just the power that he displayed there. I don't think any Seahawks fan would be excited to say, or to hear that Anthony Bradford is going to start. I get it. I'm not going to try to convince you that it's a good thing. I'm just telling you what I saw. He had a good practice. There's reasons why John Schneider and that team have turned to him before. And maybe in this offense where he is going to get a chance to showcase his better aspect, which is run blocking, maybe he will be more of an asset. Maybe he will realize more of his potential than he did the first 2 years. I thought he had a nice practice. I thought he stood out. I also thought Bryce Cabledew had a nice practice, and the coaches did as well. I heard multiple times. There was one time, I can't remember the drill specifically, but John Benton in his very easy to discern voice was like, Cabledew. That was a good rep, Cabledew. And and maybe 2 reps later in a different drill, a different coach was like, that's a good one, Cabledew. Now his name is Cabledew, but I love that Benton calls him Cabledew. So he had a nice practice. I think he was primarily getting his work at right guard, but they were moving around to different positions. I even saw Christian Haynes taking some snaps at center. I don't think that he's in the running to be one of the starters at center. I think that is a Jalen Sundell and Olu Oluwatimi competition. Both of those guys got their snaps at center. Both of them looked good. And so, but it is of note that Christian Haynes is, getting cross-trained there. And I think that's good news in general. Other guys that I'm looking down at my notes just to see. One guy that stood out to me that didn't practice, and it's very rare that I'll tell you that a guy stood out to me that did not practice. Riley Mills, the Seahawks 5th round pick that they traded up to get, that was the pick. So early in the 5th round, injured from Notre Dame, still recovering from that injury, so he's not able to practice. He looked like he was chomping at the bit to get in practice. I don't know if I've seen a player look so eager to actually be on the practice field. They're going through position drills, doing dips and moving, like the defensive linemen moving through these different things, basic stuff. And Mills is kind of taking mental reps. He's kind of doing what the guys are doing with his shoulders and his arms, taking, dipping the shoulder down. He looks like he's like wanting to get in line. And I really don't think I've seen that. The guy that it reminds me of is Russell Wilson at the Senior Bowl back before he came at, he was a Seahawk, watching him at the Senior Bowl, taking mental reps before, while other guys were going through their progressions. It was cool to see. And in fact, Adam Dirty, after practice during his press conference, made note of that. Just like, this guy is really eager to get out there. I think that's a awesome sign. It doesn't mean that he is going to be able to be great, but it's a good ingredient. It's a good ingredient to be that enthusiastic, that excited, and to have been a player that was, by a lot of people's measure, a top 50 prospect before his injury. So that stood out to me, and that was cool to see. Other pieces here that I'm looking through notes here. Cody White had a nice day. He had touchdowns on back-to-back plays. They were doing red zone at like the 5-yard line. Third down, red zone, third down and goal at the 5-yard line. They were doing that as a scenario earlier on in practice. Cody White caught 2 consecutive touchdown passes from Drew Lock. One was against Demario Williams, I believe, and the other was against Nehemiah Pritchett. Nehemiah Pritchett, on the other hand, again, did not have a great day. I am not still seeing what there is about him that the coaches see. I hope that there's something there that I'm missing, but I still see a guy that is regularly picked on in practice, and I'm not seeing him make plays on the football. I'm not seeing him fight back in terms of, giving the offense a reason to avoid him. So the positive there, 2 nice plays by Cody White. I think on the third play, Drew Lock threw a touchdown to Elijah Arroyo. Arroyo had a fine day, nothing spectacular. He did have a drop later in practice, but nothing that stood out to me necessarily really one way or another. I was kind of struck by Marquez Valdez-Scantling. His body type is very different than the rest of the players out there. Super slender, looks like, I think he's number 1. And so that combined with his build, he just looks like a pencil out there. Like very slight, tall, long, made some really nice catches in practice, including a touchdown toe tapping along the corner of the end zone. And I think that was on a pass from Drew Lock as well. Probably the pass of the day for my money. Drew Lock, great anticipation, pinpoint precision, great timing, and MVS made a really nice play to pull it in. So MVS looked good. Cooper Kupp. Let's talk about Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp made a number of catches during practice. None of them were like spectacular. He was fine. He was good. I think maybe the most noticeable play involving Cooper Kupp was a play when he did not even get targeted. I believe it was Sam Darnold, but it might have been Drew Lock. I think it was Sam Darnold who was rolling out, trying to find Cooper Kupp, who was trying to get out from under the coverage of Devin Witherspoon, and he could not do it. Witherspoon was on him like glue, and he let him know it. He let him know it, as Spoon is wont to do after the play. It was cool. It was cool to see. And Spoon talked about that after in his press conference, that it's been really good to get to go up against Cooper Kupp, that he's got a lot of different moves, that everything looks the same. He's a really good guy to get a chance to work against. Kupp did have some catches today, but that play was probably the most memorable to me, and it was one where he didn't make the catch and didn't even really get a ball thrown his way because he was too tightly covered. Let's see. I thought Zach Charbonnet looked really good. I mean, it's hard with running backs in these unpadded practices. Charbonnet just looks explosive. He looks really good. And he looks like the player that was dominant at times toward the end of last season. I just wouldn't sleep on that guy as a big part of this offense. Kenneth Walker was not taking reps today, at least, in team drills. He was in some of the smaller, I think when they weren't going up against the defense drills. I don't know that there's anything to be concerned about there. I'm sure everyone's going to freak out and say he's already injured. There's no reason to think he's injured. I think it's pretty regular for teams to protect their featured running back early on. He was there. I saw him running. He was doing stuff. So he just wasn't the guy getting snaps. And they've got a lot of running backs in there. They've got Kenny McIntosh, who looked good and explosive. You have Damian Martinez, who looked good and explosive. You have George Holani, who looked good. So yeah, there's plenty of reps to go around for the other backs that probably could benefit from it more than Kenneth Walker. But that's just something to keep an eye on as well. I did not see him, but I know because other people said that Uchenna Nwosu was there. This was the first day that he was there. That's good news. I didn't get eyes on him, so I can't tell you how he looked or anything like that. And I think we're also not supposed to comment on players who are coming off of injury. So, I don't have anything to report there, but good to hear he was there. I think one of the striking things was pretty much every player on the roster was there. This is a far cry from last year where you had the DK Metcalfs that don't attend and other players that were kind of there or not and rolling in and rolling out. DeMarcus Lawrence wasn't there, and I think Jonathan Hankins wasn't there. But, I mean, those guys are the vets of vets. And, I'm not like we've seen DeMarcus Lawrence in a lot of the OTA practice photos. So he's been here before. He just wasn't there today. He might, for all I know, be there Wednesday and Thursday. We'll just see about that. Not something to be concerned about, but really just cool to see how many players were in attendance, given that this is voluntary. I think the attitude seemed good. The effort was good. Saw an interception from Julian Love, saw an interception from Josh Jobe. So the flip side of being, not super enthusiastic about how Sam Darnold played was the good news of seeing, really nice plays from Julian Love, who continues to be one of the most underrated safeties in the game. And then Josh Jobe making a really nice play, and some other guys, making some nice plays throughout the day. Let me see. Derek Young had a couple of nice plays. Looking through a couple of notes here. Yeah, so I think that by the way, Jake Bobo had a nice touchdown catch today. Toe tapper along the end zone, the end line. JSN, if you're wondering, had a fine day, nothing great, nothing terrible, had a few touchdowns and red zone drills, but was just doing JSN, nothing crazy. Overall, again, very, very early. You could feel the lack of DK Metcalf there and the lack of threat that Geno Smith provided as far as explosive plays. We've heard from national guys, whether it's Derek Klassen or Sheil Kapadia or Steven Ruiz or whoever else, Deontay Lee, not that they have questions about whether this offense is going to be explosive enough, whether they have enough weapons. And today was a day in their favor, like a notch toward their belief. It does not look like, based on what I saw, that dynamic of an offense. And you've got guys like Cooper Kupp and JSN who I think can be very good receivers, but I don't think they're that dynamic necessarily in terms of, really threatening teams over the top. So one thing that I walked away with was just this feeling of, I've been thinking that the Seahawks run game is going to be better than people realize, and that's going to be a bonus. It's going to be great to add to, an accomplished quarterback in Sam Darnold with some good receivers, good tight ends, and a nice balanced passing and running game. I walk away today, my, again, first impression is that they need the run game to be really good. Like, I think for this offense to be better than average, they're going to have a really good run game. And they might have that. We'll find out. But I think the importance of that run game actually working out is higher than I would have thought before today. I might feel very different 48 hours from now. We'll see. But that's going to be an issue. I think that's going to be something the team's going to have to prove to itself and to opponents, that they have to worry about this offense beyond, 10 to 15 yards down the field. Or else I think you're going to see a lot of defenses really crowd the short to intermediate and force them to take these over the top plays. And maybe they don't have the right people to do that. So that's going to be an interesting dance to watch. And I think the only way we're going to know is over the course of training camp and preseason, and then obviously into the regular season. That's when the proof will really come. So there's other things to cover, but I will leave it there. Hopefully, I know I do these because I know that when I didn't have access, I would have killed for somebody to do this and just give me something about how guys looked and first looks at these things. So when I have an opportunity, I'll try to do these. I have to go make dinner for the fam and do a bunch of other stuff as well. If you have a chance to give the show a like and click subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, that would be greatly appreciated. And then head on over to patreon.com/hawkblogger, get access to ad-free audio of all these podcasts, as well as our Discord channel, be part of the community. And folks, we are like maybe 24 hours, maybe less away from launching the HB Ticket Exchange, where Seahawks fans will be able to sell and buy Seahawks tickets from each other to keep the home field advantage what we want it to be at Lumen Field, filled with Seahawks fans, not opposing fans. So being a patron member is a big part of how you can support that effort, as well as how you can show other people that you're a trustworthy Seahawks fan and not some nasty 49ers fan trying to come into our exchange and get a good deal on seats. All right, folks. With that, I will bid you adieu. I hope you enjoy this, again, gorgeous, gorgeous day. There will be no practice that the media is available to or are allowed to attend tomorrow. I will be back with you. I think I'm going to be talking to Brock Heward. Not sure if that's going to air tomorrow or later. I will then be back at Seahawks at the VMAC on Wednesday and Thursday for 2 more OTAs that we are allowed to attend, and I will give you a full report on all those. All right, everybody, until I see you tomorrow, have a great rest of your Monday. I'm Brian M. Hauser. This has been a bonus episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care, y'all. Of course, this means I have to find my, there we go. Now I'll say goodbye, y'all.